Okay, welcome back. Yes, good afternoon. So, 3:40 to 5:40. This is our period of study, and this is part B. We will have a break at 5:40 to 6, and then 6 to 8. So, I will wait for everybody to join in. I'll start in the next 5 minutes. And just for 1 second, I'm not going anywhere. Just my video and audio is muted for 1 second. Okay, welcome back. I think everybody's here. Everybody's back. Now we can start our discussion. I hope you had a good lunch. Now, the most important section of Buddhism. Right. Still, people are joining in. Still, people are coming in. I'll wait 1 more minute because still the number is not there. Okay, welcome back. Yes, Buddhism. So what we've discussed till this point is three ratnas. We discussed the concept of what we call as the Atriya Saccai, which is the Four Noble Truths, and we also now understand the Ashtanga Marg. Now there are certain set of terms which you will see across the paper in different contexts, and you should know them without any doubt in that regard. And I will show you a question also which came in the examination by the end of this class, and you will realize the importance of these terms. So this is a very, very, very important slide for you within Buddhism, and you have to pay attention to this. First is the Arya Saccai, the Atriya Saccai, which is Four Noble Truths. This is something which should not be a problem because we already discussed this. Dukh, suffering, again something you don't have to learn. Samudaya is a word which you use already in the Atriya Saccai, so cause. Ashtanga Marg. Anybody has any issue in the first four? Whoever has joined us right now, anybody has any issue in the first four terms we've discussed? Come on, any issues here? No? Very good. Now comes the more closer and problematic set of terms, starting with a word called Nibbana. And because Nibbana and Nirvana are very close to each other, students tend to mix these up. See, Nibbana is the metaphorical, now please pay attention, metaphorical and the physical extinction of the flame of desire or the process of death, in the sense that if I die, or in a way, the Arya Saccai, we discussed this, that there's dukh, there's a reason for that and how you get it. Vivek don't have selective amnesia. Okay, so the Arya Saccai, Dukkha, Samudaya, Ashtanga Marg. Now very important set of words, which is Nibbana and Nirvana. Nibbana is basically the flame of desire or lust or maya or attachment getting extinguished, or we can use a much simpler term, getting satisfied and ceases to exist. This is the metaphorical meaning of this line. On the other hand, it also means the process of death. On the other hand, Nirvana is salvation. Now there are two words which are very close to each other. See, Nibbana, Vimokha, Vimutti all mean blowing out, or the concept of very simply taking away desire itself. Then there's a word called Parinibbana. Parinibbana is the process of Buddha dying. Parinibbana is the process of Buddha dying. So when the enlightened one dies, it is called parinirvana. Nibbana is when you and me die, or our desire which is inside us dies. So the process of following the Ashtanga through a meditation, we all want Nibbana, which is the extinction of the flame of desire, and Parinibbana is a word when the enlightened one, which is Buddha, dies. Then you have two words close to each other, Upasaka, Upasaki, and a term called Arhat. Now please pay attention. First thing first, Nibbana and Nirvana clear. Nibbana is the extinction of the flame of desire. On the other hand, Nirvana is the process of getting salvation or moksha. Are we clear with regards to this? Sushmita is saying no. If you're saying no, what is the issue? You have to be more specific here. Sushmita, what is the issue? Confused about what? There's only a difference of B and V. Spelling N-I-B, N-I-V. There's a difference in this only. 1 second. Okay, see. Nibbana, Nirvana. Nibbana, Nirvana. This is death, or symbolically death of desire. And Nirvana is the process of moksha, salvation. So when you get a Nibbana, only after Nibbana you can get Nirvana. So very simply, once you get death, once death happens, then only you get Nirvana. This I'm using this word because people tend to do this, confuse these two words. Nibbana is a symbolic and a physical process of death of desire and the death of the physical being. Nirvana is the process of getting salvation. Are we clear with regards to this? Parinibbana is yes, very good. It's for special people. Specifically, Parinibbana is not you and me dying, but Buddha dying. Very good. If a special person dies, it is Nibbana. Are we clear? Yes, great. Now, there are three words again which are very close to each other. Arhat, Upasika, Upasak. Now, what is the difference between these three? I'll give you a very simple example. You went on YouTube. Do you watch each and every video if you're subscribed to the channel? In a sense, before watching a video, do you subscribe to the channel? Yes or no? No? You can watch a channel without subscribing to it. That is basically Arhat, which is a person who is not a Buddhist, but knows the eightfold path. Basically, today all of us became Arhat because we know Buddhist philosophy also, we know the Ashtanga Marg also, but we're not Buddhists. Now, if you watch some certain content without subscribing to it, you are an Arhat. But once you subscribe to it, you become an Upasika or Upasak, female follower or a male follower. It's a very simple, straightforward concept. Upasak, male follower, Upasika, female follower, Arhat. Instances of lay person becoming a follower without joining the Sangha by simply hearing the doctrine. So we all have become Arhats today, but we are not Upasaka or Upasika. The only term which is left is a term called Pravajya. Pravajya means when you leave the house to become a Buddhist or Buddhist monk, it is called Pravajya. So let me give you a summary of these terms. Nibbana, Nirvana, Parinibbana, Arhat, Upasak or Upasika, and Pravajya. Now, Nibbana is death or death of desire. Moksha, salvation. Parinibbana is death of Buddha. Arhat is non-follower, knows Buddhist philosophy. These is male and female. Sure, Sushmita, you can do that. Sure. Take care. Male and female follower. Process of leaving the house to become monk. Any issue here? These words. Last, Pravajya is when you are a householder and you try to become or are going to basically go and join the Sangha as a monk. So the day you leave your house, it's called a moment of Pravajya, which is that you're leaving your desires back, your family back, and you're becoming a monk. So it's a symbolic term which has been given. Nibbana, Nirvana, Parinibbana, Arhat, Upasak, Upasika, Pravajya. All clear? Please tell me this because then we move forward. Because now I don't need to do Buddhist councils, the most important concept. Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out very clearly to you is, see, there's no end to terms. There is no end to terms. So understand this very, very clearly. That in every book you will get another set of terms. In different books you get different meaning of the terms. The ones which I've given to you are standard UPSC level, what is needed. However, if needed, when you go through NCERT, when you go through R. Sharma, if you need to, note the terms down and write their meanings. But you need to know where to stop because Buddhism has close to 10 to 15,000 terms. So very simply, know where to stop and don't have to learn each and every term. Acceptable? The ones which I've given you the standard terms which can come in the examination. Okay. Now, we've discussed Buddhism, Buddhist core philosophy, and the concept of what we call as the terminologies which are used in Buddhism. Now we are going to discuss something very, very, very fundamental and important for the examination, which is Buddhist councils and the split within the councils, leading to different sects and subsects of Buddhism. This is a very important standard topic which comes in the examination. Now let's do one thing. I will go into the facts and figures later because when did it happen, who was it handed over by, is a separate issue altogether. I'm going to give you a flowchart in order to give you a summary of what these councils are, and then we'll add the details. Right now, I know who is the presiding monk, I know who is the ruler, I know the date, but I'm not giving it to you. Rather, I want you to understand why are these councils generally important. Now, Buddha is dead. Presumably 486 BCE, he is considered to be dead. Now, when the founder of a religion dies, Is the religion vulnerable of becoming maybe obscure or basically not going forward or becoming irrelevant over a period of time? Yes, because the person who is the one, when Buddha is alive, everybody wants to meet Buddha, but now Buddha is dead. Difference between enlightened death and normal death. Dinesh, when Buddha dies, he's Buddha. He's the enlightened one. You and me are stand at normal death. Important people die parinirvana, and standard people die nirvana. Now once Buddha died, now his followers who are left behind had to figure out something, which is that what to do. We need to somehow make sure that Buddhism survives and remains relevant. So the people who were left behind are called the Sangha. Sangha is nothing but the monastic establishment, or it is basically monks plus followers together. And now they need to find a way to, very simply, make sure that Buddha's teachings and Buddha does not become irrelevant. So they meet at the first council, 486 BCE. And the agenda of the first council is, which is the Sangha meeting at the first council, is we need to do two things. First, we need to institutionalize our religion, and we also need to note down what Buddha said. So, at the first Buddhist council, two texts are produced. Two texts are produced. One is called Sutta, the other one is called Vinay. Vinay Pitaka and Sutta Pitaka. Pitaka basically is a Prakrit term for book. Just to confirm the spelling to you, because when you will see it here, you will find it better. Pitaka, Pitaka, Pitaka. Pitaka basically simply means you can Pitika, Pitaka, Pitaka. This means book. Now, Sutta has the teachings of Buddha written down. This is in Prakrit, but we also have Pali versions of it. Pali and Prakrit versions both are available, but mostly Prakrit was used. Sanskrit was avoided because it was the language of Vedic Brahmanism. So the teachings of Buddha were written down. So basically, Dhamma was written down. What did Buddha say? And Vinay is very, very important because this had the rules and regulations on how to live and be a monk. So basically, at the first Buddhist council, the Sangha has produced two very important texts, which are called Sutta and Vinaya. First has the teachings of Buddha written down so that people don't forget, and which is mostly basically what he said, and Vinay, which is basically the rules and regulations of the monastic establishment. Think of it like this, that basically this is like the rules and regulations of the Sangha. Two texts produced at the first Buddhist council. Anybody has any issue to this point? You understand what is teaching of Buddha, you understand what is Dhamma, you also understand what is the concept of Sangha, what is the concept of a rule book for the Sangha itself. If you're not following me, please tell me, I will repeat, no issues at all. So we are clear with regards to this. Yes, no, come on. Okay. Repeat, sir. If you're asking me repeat, what aspect you want me to repeat, so I will emphasize on that. Sangha, Buddha is dead. Sangha now needs to make sure that Buddhism survives. In order for it to survive, there needs to be more institutionalization. For it to get more institutionalized, very simply, you need to meet and basically write everything down. First Buddhist council will meet in 486 BCE and therefore write two texts called Vinay Pitaka and the Sutta Pitaka. One is the teaching of Buddha written down, and the other one is the rule book or the religion itself in a way, which is basically based on rules and regulation for monks and the rules and regulation for the monastic establishment. Are we clear with regards to this? What are the rules that they need to follow? I don't care what are the rules they need to follow. But basically, how do you become a monk? What do you need to do every day? What do you not need to do every day? What are the things you need to stay away from? How does the monastic establishment work? Doesn't really matter to us what are the rules. We have nothing to do with Vinay Pitaka. But it is the rules and regulations, the way monks have to live and basically follow Buddhism. Pali version meaning that there is, in certain areas we found the Prakrit version of this text, certain ways we found Pali version. Are we clear? Vivek, Dinesh, Hardeep. It's a book for do's and don'ts. Sure, why not? Yes, okay. Now the first Buddhist council has met. And 100 years go by. And within the Sangha, certain people start to argue that the Vinay Pitaka is a little bit too hard to follow. And there's a certain faction which says, no, Vinay Pitaka, all perfect, no issues. Why are we saying that it is hard to follow? We think that it's not hard to follow. So one faction, in these 100 years, two factions develop. One says that Vinay Pitaka is hard to follow. And the other faction says Vinay Pitaka is not a problem, should not change. Standard. I give you a rule book. Some of you will say it is hard to follow. Some of you will say not hard to follow. So what happens is that over this issue in 386 BCE, the second Buddhist council happens. And faithfully, in the second Buddhist council, over the issue of Vinay Pitaka and the rules and regulation of monks, the first split happens in Buddhism. And what happens basically is that two factions develop. One is called the Mahasangika, and the second one is called Theravada. You would also have seen this word called Sthanakvasi. That is the same as Sthanakvasi. That is basically the same as Sthanakavasi, which is nothing the same as Theravada. The Mahasangika, which is the majority, argues that the Vinay Pitak should be changed and the rules are very hard to follow. On the other hand, the Theravada argue the rules are not problematic, no change. So very simply, Buddhism now splits into two schools. So we very simply start with the first Buddhist council where two texts are produced. I will bring everything together, don't worry, which is the Sutta and Vinaya Pitak. And one is the teaching of Buddha, the other one is the rule book for the monastery. However, over the next 100 years, there's a lot of debate which happens over the nature of Vinaya, saying that Vinaya is too hard to follow, we need to change it. And that issue in turn leads to the second Buddhist council, one half of the Buddhist community leaving Buddhism or creating their own subsect, which is called the Theravada school. Theravada school says that the rules and regulations are perfect, no need to change. But the Mahasangika says we need to change the rules and regulations, which is the majority, because it is too hard to follow for anybody and to become a monk generally. So the second Buddhist council is very, very significant because the first split in Buddhism happens. Are we clear with regards to this? I will consolidate it till this point and then move to the third and fourth Buddhist council. Clear? Very good. So, first Buddhist council, you have Sutta and Vinaya, two books produced. Second Buddhist council leads to a split in Buddhism, which is Mahasangika and Theravada. Vinaya does not change, need to dilute the rules for easier monkhood. Anybody has any issue till this point? Anybody has any issue here? Everything is clear. Okay. Now, one thing is very, very clear, that the Theravada will not go forward now. And it is the Mahasangika which goes forward as a major group. And the Theravada becomes the oldest school of Buddhism to exist today. Because Mahasangika is going to now further become problematic as it goes further. First Buddhist council, you have Sutta and Vinaya Pitak, two books. Second Buddhist council, over the issue of the Vinaya Pitak, which is a rule book, they get divided into Theravada and Mahasangika. A smaller faction, the minority, comes out of Buddhism to get their own type of Buddhism. That is why it's called the Theravada school of Buddhism. And they never diluted the Vinaya Pitak. So tell me one thing. Where would it be harder to become a monk? Theravada or Mahasangika? Trying to apply the knowledge which you've gained right now. Very good. Theravada. Theravada would be much harder to become a monk because they are following the original Vinaya Pitak. However, Mahasangika diluted the rules, basically trying to remain relevant in changing times so as to somehow make monkhood easier. Very good, great. So we have now applied the knowledge and you've done it very successfully. Great. Now, this story does not stop here. 486, 386. Now, in 250 BCE, under the most celebrated of all Buddhist rulers, which is Ashoka, as I will tell you, the Mahasangika again meets again in what is called the third Buddhist council. And here they will produce the third book of Buddhist religion, which is called the Abhidhamma Pitaka. This is nothing but the interpretation of Buddha's saying, which is nothing but what the philosophy is. Because what Buddha said, multiple people were multiply understanding it. So now what they said was, what Buddha meant in the Sutta Pitak, this is the meaning of it, and that was given in Abhidhamma Pitak. By writing the Abhidhamma Pitak, this completes the canonical text of Buddhism, which are called the Pitakas. 3 books called the Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma. What is the canonical text? I'll tell you what, very simply. What is the canonical text of Islam? What is the canonical text of Islam? Quran. And what is the canonical text of Christianity? Bible. Same way, the canonical text of Buddhism is the Pitakas. Very simply, a canonical text is, the word canonical is used for a text which lays down the basic rules and regulations of that religion. How that religion is going to work is put down by a canonical text. So very simply, Pitakas, Sutta, Vinaya, Abhidhamma are the 3 together called the Pitakas, are the canonical text of the Buddhist religion. That is completed in the third Buddhist council. So third Buddhist council, very significant again, because the last major text is written down. Now, between 250 BCE as first century CE, a very important text comes. How is Sutta different from Abhidhamma? Abhijit, good question. See, how do I put it? You have, if you're from engineering background, are you from engineering background? Abhijit, engineering? No. Which background is? I'll give it in that context. What is the background? BSc, MSc, BTech, economics. Very good. Okay. So, Sutta is microeconomics and Abhidhamma is macroeconomics. In the sense, Sutta gives you the rules and regulations. Demand is going to be like this, supply is going to be like this, that. However, the macroeconomics, how it actually works, is given by Abhidhamma. In the sense, formulas are in the Sutta Pitaka. How to apply them is in the Abhidhamma. What Buddha said, do not indulge in desire. Now this can be interpreted in multiple ways. So in Abhidhamma it is said, desire means no greed, no money, no this, no that. It's basically, Sutta is the core ideology. Abhidhamma is the interpretation of that ideology. Getting my point? Abhijit, makes sense? Did this make sense to everyone? How? One is theoretical knowledge and the other is application. In Rig Veda, basically, in the Vedic tradition, Rig Veda is basically the Sutta. And the Atharva Veda is like the Abhidhamma. Rig Veda gives you the shloks. Atharva, specifically the what you call the Upanishads, give you the interpretation of those shloks. So I think everybody's on board, understand everything in that regard. Interpretation of the Sutta. Very good. Okay. Now, 250 BC to 1st century CE, there's a lot of internal churn which is happening within Mahasangika. And there are two types of questions which develop. So within the Sangha, there's a question which develops. And the question is Buddha a teacher, or is Buddha a god, or God himself? Should we worship him? Should we worship idols of Buddha? What is his status? Is the question. Relevant question. Is Buddha God, or is Buddha teacher? Is relevant question. Now, in 1st century CE, the 4th Buddhist council meets when Kanishka calls it, and the second split happens in Buddhism, and that split is between Hinayanic Buddhism and Mahayanic Buddhism. Again, the majority was Mahayana, wherein the Mahayana, better vehicle, was Buddhism, and Hinayana was the lesser vehicle, named by the Mahayana itself. For Hinayana, Buddha was not God. He was a great teacher. No idol worship. Worship his symbols. No need for Buddha image worship. Mahayanic Buddhism rather argues Buddha is God. Buddha's idols are to be worshipped. And one more thing will develop, what is called the concept of bodhisattvas. I will discuss that with you once I discuss the larger context with you. This is basically abstracted in the Mahasangika, yes. So let me bring everything together in one slide itself. See, and I'll give you a very simple. Odd number is books. Even number is split. First, third book, second, fourth, split. If you remember like this, you will never forget. First council, you have Sutta Vinaya Pitaka. Second Buddhist council, Theravada Mahasangika. Third Buddhist council, Abhidhamma. Fourth Buddhist council, Mahayana, Hinayana. So 486, 386, 250, 1st century. So the first split is here. The second split is here. Odd books, even split. I will tell you how Mahayana will. Basically, Mahasangika is splitting up. Theravada is a separate school. So the oldest school is this. This is the second and the third school. Is it making sense? Come on. Because if it is, then I will go a step further. We need to discuss Mahayana, Hinayana, and also Vajrayana. Clear? Okay. Now, let's add the details here. First Buddhist council, 486 BC, after Parinirvana, near Rajgir. Ajatashatru is the ruler who organized it. That is why odd number council, even number split. Yes. Ajatashatru is the ruler. And the monk who presided over it is Mahakassapa. Reals not needed, but still, if you remember it, good enough. What do they do? Sutta and Vinaya, rules for monks, Buddha's sermons, teachings and ethics, written down. Then, second Buddhist council, 100 years after the death of Buddha, organized by, remember, where did I tell you about this person? Kalasoka. Kalasoka is which dynasty? Yes, the Shishunga dynasty of the Magad. Now you get the purpose of remembering his name. Nothing unnecessary I will ask you to learn. The purpose of remembering his name is because he is the ruler who organized the second Buddhist council in 386 BCE. The monk who was presiding over it is Sabakambi. Sabakambi is the one who actually presided over it, and in turn, there was a difference in opinion over monastic discipline, split into two other. The Theravadin or Theravada and the unorthodox Mahasangika, which is the member of the great community. This is the first split. Thereafter, the third Buddhist council is 250 CE, the most celebrated of all rulers, Ashoka, presided over by Mogaliputta Tissa. Mogaliputta Tissa, he is the monk. Here, there is a lot of conflict over different interpretations. Therefore, the Abhidhamma Pitaka is written down, and now Ashoka will send missions to Sri Lanka, to Karnataka, to Kashmir, to Burma and Afghanistan to spread Buddhism. Then, under Kanishka in Kundalwana in Kashmir, under Kanishka, with 2 people presiding, which meant that the split was obviously going to happen, Vasumitra and Ashwaghosha. The next major split happens, which is the second split, which is the fact that you have Mahayanic and Hinayanic Buddhism developing, Mahayanic and Hinayanic Buddhism, which is the second split. Because then I will discuss Mahayana and Hinayana in much more detail if we are clear with regards to this concept, which is this whole slide. If it is clear, if somebody asks you what happened in the first, second, third Buddhist council and fourth Buddhist council, will you be able to identify where Theravada comes through, where does Mahasangika come through, where does Hinayana and Mahayana come through? Are we in a position to do this? Yes or no? Fourth was presided over by Vasumitra and Ashwaghosha both. Do we need to learn the name of the presiding monks? Yes. Third in fourth Buddhist council. Third point in fourth Buddhist council. Compilation of all discussions and corporate inscriptions. Settlement of differences. This I'm coming to. The 18 sects, which I'm coming to that. Mahakasyapa is the monk. That is the name of a monk. Okay. We all are clear with regards to the purpose, what happened in the first, second, and third Buddhist council. We are clear about that? Okay. Now, Theravada is there in Sri Lanka, even in parts of India, in Southeast Asia, quite a lot. Now, understand this. Generally, Mahasangika split into Mahayana and Hinayana. And later from Mahayana will come out Vajrayana. I will tell you what is the difference between the 3, but I will also add to it Theravada. Basically, there are 4 schools of Buddhism. So let's try to differentiate them. Theravada is the most ancientest branch of Buddhism today. Sri Lanka and subsequently in parts of Southeast Asia, it did spread through. What Theravada argues is that Arhat is not enough to get Buddhahood. Very simply, they argue that if you don't subscribe to the channel, you will not be able to clear UPSC. Meaning that if you're just a casual follower of Buddhism, just by knowing the Ashtanga Marg. For example, Theravada would argue that we will not get moksha because we are not serious about Buddhist philosophy. We just know Buddhist philosophy, but we are not following it. So according to them, the 4 noble truths and meditation is important, but you have to become a serious upasak or upasika to become, or to get, rather, to not become, to get moksha. Right? Okay. Now, Theravada, Mahayana, Pali is a language, Hinayana and Vajrayana. Let's try to differentiate between them. Yeah, they stressed in a way on joining the Sangha. That's a good way of saying it. Okay. So Theravada, oldest, Arhat cannot get salvation, created at second council. Vinay Pitak was not problematic. Now, Narendra, refresh. Now let's talk about Mahayana. This is the most popular, and you will find it across India, across parts of Southeast Asia, even China, Japan, everywhere you find this. So Mahayana, Buddha is God, idol worship, the best way to get salvation is through meditation and worshipping Buddha. And now comes the concept of and bodhisattvas. Now let's discuss what is sattvas. Bodhisattvas are important part of Mahayana. Now what is a bodhisattva? Please understand this. You all are clear to this point? No issues? You clear about all of this? Come on. No issues, great. So now we need to understand the concept of bodhisattva. Now see, according to Mahayanic Buddhism, pay attention to what I'm saying, then I'll write it down also. According to Buddhism, Mahayanic Buddhism, so you have Buddha who got salvation and he got moksha. He went away. However, Buddha also had disciples or followers who were on the way to salvation. Meaning they were like 10 to 15% away from getting moksha. But they realized that Buddha is dead. And if they are dead, this is an example, not truly example. They are 10 to 15% away from getting moksha. But then they realize that if Buddha is gone, who will teach you how to get salvation? So these compassionate beings have delayed their salvation and their moksha so as to give you the knowledge on how to get salvation. So bodhisattvas are compassionate beings who have delayed their salvation in order to very simply get everyone else the ideas of salvation. And once they die, they become subsidiary gods of Buddha. Very simply, in Mahayanic Buddhism, there's a concept that you have Buddha, and then you have subsidiary gods who are called bodhisattvas. Can anybody give me an example of a god and a subsidiary god? Can anybody give me an example of this? God and subsidiary god? Not within Buddhism, standard, random. Good. Shiva, Nandi. See, when you're talking about, for example, Vishnu and Rama or Shiv or Hanumana, you're technically talking about avatars. Avatars are different. Avatars are different. It matters on the standpoint. But for example, if you have Shiva, so you have Shiva, Parvati, Ganesha, Kartikeya. So this is a whole set of gods which we have. Lord Shiva, Goddess Parvati, Lord Ganesha, and Lord Kartikeya. This is one whole set. Same way, think of Buddha and subsidiary gods. Getting my point? Are you getting my point? If you, for example, are a Marvel fan, then think of it like Nick Fury and the Avengers around him. Does this make sense more? And very simply, there's one major god and there are subsidiary gods around him. Is this making sense? What do you mean by subsidiary gods of Buddha or Buddhism? If it is making sense, I'll not give you very simple examples. Yes, very good. So, in Mahayanic Buddhism, you basically have this concept that you have Buddha. Yeah, very good example, Sundaresh. Sun and the planets. Very good. Very, very good. The sun and the planets. So, Buddha is the sun and the planets are like the bodhisattvas. Very good. So, yeah, Volkswagen and its subsidiaries, Tata and its groups, whatever you want to call. Now we're going into more economic ones, but sure, why not? Whatever makes you understand this concept that bodhisattvas are compassionate beings who stayed back to give other people salvation, and once they die, they also become one of the gods around Buddha. So within Mahayanic Buddhism, spiritual liberation by both monks and ordinary followers, they said everybody can get salvation. Bodhisattvas are compassionate beings who help others attain nirvana and depict Buddha as God, spread to all across Southeast Asia and East Asia. And the most important point is accumulation of spiritual merit through rebirth. Have we seen this concept previously? Accumulation of spiritual merits through rebirth. Where have you heard of this concept? Accumulation of spiritual merits through rebirth. Very good. This is Neil, very good. Punya. See, Mahayanic Buddhism came up at a time when Vedic Brahmanism was resurrecting itself, was becoming more and more powerful. So Mahayanic Buddhism tried to remain relevant by saying, people said, what I'm not, moksha, will we get it in one time? No, they said, maybe you will not get it in this time, next birth, next to next birth, next to next birth. This is the concept which they picked up from Vedic Brahmanism. That in order to create more followers, in order to remain relevant in a changing time, they also change themselves. This is Buddhism trying to change and remain relevant as it goes forward. So when we talk about Mahayanic Buddhism, the most important concept is bodhisattvas and the concept of Buddha is God. Now for the purpose of the examination, we need to know who are these bodhisattvas. Are we clear with regards to the core concept of bodhisattvas? Are we clear with regards to the concept of what is Mahayanic Buddhism? Yes, then I talk about the concept of bodhisattvas. As I said, this is the most interesting but also the difficult part of this discussion. Okay, now, who are the bodhisattvas? You have to remember their names. Has come in the examination straightforward. The most important bodhisattva, basically named in different places and different names, is Avalokeshvara. Avalokeshvara, also called Lokeshvara and also called Bodhisattva Padampani, is the most important secondary god around Buddha. So he's one of the three protective deities around Buddha. He is the one who holds the lotus and known as Padampani. In Ajanta, as I'll show you in art and culture, there are paintings of Bodhisattva Padampani, or what we call as Avalokeshvara. What is his quality? Every god has a power. So what is his quality? He is the Bodhisattva of compassion. He listens to the cries of the world and then also tells them how to change it. He comes to the aid of the people who cry. And therefore, he's called Lokeshvara in Theravada, Avalokeshvara in Mahayanic Buddhism, and Bodhisattva Padampani in different contexts. A very interesting thing is Dalai Lama, the concept of Tibetan Buddhism. Dalai Lama is seen as an incarnation of Avalokeshvara. Basically, the concept of Dalai Lama comes from the concept of Avalokeshvara. That Avalokeshvara did an avatar, and that reincarnation is in the form of the Dalai Lama. So in Tibetan Buddhism, the concept of Dalai Lama comes from Avalokeshvara. So when we talk about Buddha and his subsidiary gods, the first is Buddha. Then you have Avalokeshvara. Avalokeshvara is the god of aid and listens to sorrows of the world, and also called Lokeshvara and Bodhisattva Padampani. This is the first. Second is called Vajrapani. Vajrapani is the second protective deity and again represented in the Ajanta caves. And the third is called Manjushri. He is the third and he is associated with the wisdom of Buddha. And he is the male Bodhisattva yielding a sword in his hand. So very simply, you have three protective deities around Buddha. You have Manjushri, Vajrapani, and Avalokeshvara. These three together are called the three protective deities of Buddhism or Mahayanic Buddhism. Buddha being the most important personality linked with these three gods. Avalokeshvara is the aider, Manjushri is the protector, and Vajrapani is the one, Manjushri is the one who acts, and Vajrapani is the one who protects. So you see, you have Avalokeshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. We can write compassion here. This is wisdom. And you have Vajrapani and Manjushri. Manjushri is wisdom, rather. Manjushri is wisdom. These three parts are once more. See, understand this, please. Think of it like this. Mahayanic Buddhism expanded the universe of Buddha. In the sense, they argued that Buddha is God. That is not an issue to you. However, when they argued that Buddha is God, they also said that Buddha is not alone. Buddha has further disciples who are also deified. This is called deification, which is to make somebody a god. In that, the following personalities were made into subsidiary gods of Buddhism. Avalokeshwar, who very simply is the Bodhisattva of compassion, the listener of the cries of the world, and Lokeshwar, Padampani, Avalokeshwar, the three names used for him, and sometimes repeated as a female also. But Dalai Lama concept today in Tibetan Buddhism is based on the fact that Avalokeshwar reincarnated as Dalai Lama. On the other hand, there are further two more subsidiary deities linked to it, which is Vajrapani and Manjushri. Vajrapani is the protective deity who acts. Manjushri is the god of wisdom. It's a protective deity. Think of it like this only, that you have the sun, Buddha, and the planets, which is Manjushri, Avalokeshwar, and Vajrapani. These are the three protective deities. This is wisdom, this is protection, and this is compassion. Is this making sense? It's not difficult. God and sub-gods, or what are called God and subsidiary gods, is something which we automatically know in India, because we already have this concept. And ironically, this was picked up from Vedic Brahmanism only. This was picked up from Hinduism only. Now, these are the three main gods. Then a question came in UPSC that Buddha will come back. And when Buddha will come back, he will incarnate himself as a bodhisattva. And that name was Maitreyi. Maitreyi is the future Buddha, which will appear on earth in the future, achieve complete enlightenment again, and will teach dharma or dhamma again. Laughing Buddha is seen within the Chinese and the Southeast Asian concept as an incarnation of Maitreyi. Basically, Laughing Buddha was Buddha coming back on earth in a new form itself, and the name, the bodhisattva in which it will take form, or Buddha will take form, is Maitreyi. So Maitreyi is the name given to the incarnation of Buddha in the future. Further, you have Tara. Tara is another bodhisattva subsidiary god, and she is, and very important, she's a female goddess, represents the virtues of success and achievement. Tara is very, very important because she is central to Vajrayanic Buddhism. I will tell you, Vajrayanic Buddhism. Then you have Vasudhara, Skanda, and Sitapatra. Vasudhara is the goddess of wealth, or god of wealth, prosperity, and abundance. Skanda is the one who takes care and protects the monks. And Sitapatra is the protector against supernatural danger. So you see, very simply, they represent different aspects of nature. So very simply, you have Buddha, Manjushri, Vajrapani, Avalokeshwar. You have to learn this, comes in the examination. Then you have Tara, Skanda, and Sitapatra. Tara is achievement. Skanda is protector of monks. And Sitapatra is protection from supernatural. Then you have Maitreyi, which is future Buddha. And that's it. Vasudhara is wealth and prosperity and abundance. So Vasudhara, wealth, prosperity. Vasudhara. So you have Buddha as the most important god, but a whole plethora of other bodhisattvas attached to it. So again, I'm repeating myself. Mahayanic Buddhism is a little bit complicated because it does not remain within itself. Buddha, because there's a resurgence of Vedic Brahmanism. Mahayanic Buddhism came through when Sanskrit was becoming more and more important. Sanskrit was coming back. So Mahayanic Buddhism tried to remain relevant. And rather than just worshipping Buddha, it also expanded the concept. All of these were disciples of Buddha who later were given god status. From Vajrapani to Manjushri to Avalokeshwar to Skanda to Sitapatra to Tara to Maitreyi to Vasudhara. Except for Maitreyi, which is a future incarnation. Except for this. All of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are disciples of Buddha who later stayed back and later got very important position. This is actually a concept which is quite similar to gods, Hindu gods. In Hindu gods, it's the same thing which we have. We have one central god and then multiple gods around them. Same way, Buddhism absorbed Hinduistic concept of avatars, the concept of subsidiary gods, and that is how Mahayanic Buddhism changed. So Maitreyi is future Buddha. If Buddha is going to ever come back, he is going to come back as Maitreyi. And Laughing Buddha within the Southeast Asian tradition is seen as Buddha coming back. Then you have Dalai Lama, who takes out the concept of Dalai Lama comes from Avalokeshwar. You don't have to do a thesis here. You just have to remember this concept. Buddha, Avalokeshwar, Manjushri, Vajrapani, Vasudhara, Maitreyi, Tara, Skanda, Sitapatra. Maitreyi being the one which is going to come in the future. Everyone else existed with Buddha or after Buddha. Maitreyi is going to come later. Clear, everyone? Because they asked a question on Maitreyi, all of them become relevant. And as it is, you should know who is Avalokeshwar or Bodhisattva Padampani. Because the paintings in Ajanta depict Avalokeshwar quite a lot. Is there any provision for more Bodhisattvas? Why not? They can add any. But you will see that basically after Gupta period, Buddhism was never able to compete with Hinduism. That I will discuss with you when I reach there. Okay. So in our story of Theravada and Mahayana, this is the most complicated part. Then you have Hinayana. Hinayana, very simply, Buddha is a good teacher, not God. Worship symbols of Buddha and no concept of bodhisattvas, and very simply meditation and Ashtanga Marg. Are we clear with regards to Theravada, Mahayana, Hinayana? Mahayana and Hinayana, I just repeat to you. Lesser vehicle, orthodox faction, meditation. Buddha is a great teacher, not God. Sri Lanka, Indochina again is there. Worship of Buddha through symbols. Symbols such as lotus flower, dharma chakra, stupa, three ratnas, chhatra. You do not learn this. Do not learn. But I'm showing you the symbols. So now comes the most important, which is what is Vajrayanic Buddhism. Can I talk about Vajrayana? Is this making sense? If it is not making sense, I'll repeat it. But this is the complicated part of the story. Are we clear with regards to Theravada, Mahayana and Hinayana? Because very simply, Jainism is not as complicated as Buddhism. Yes, no, some have to say something. Okay. Now people were doing meditation. People were doing God worship also. But people are getting frustrated with Mahayanic Buddhism. Meditation, rebirth, what's the point? So what happens is that Tantricism starts to rise, which is Tantra, Mantra, and shortcuts. So what happens is that Tantricism influences Mahayanic Buddhism. And what we get is Vajrayanic Buddhism, which argues that what meditation and all, Tantra Mantra karke we will get moksha. it very simply now absorbs. Tara becomes central god and Tantra mother to get salvation. They said, why wait? That is what's called the thunderbolt vehicle. Thunderbolt vehicle. That we will just use Tantra mantra, black magic, and get salvation. So very simply, Vajrayanic Buddhism totally changed the way Buddhism actually worked. Which is that they said that it's all Buddha makes no sense. Tara is what we will worship, and by worshipping Tara, we will do Tantra mantra and we will use different yantra and we will through thunderbolt vehicle. This Mahayana Hinayana will not do anything. We will straight away get automatic salvation and moksha. Moksha through magic or black magic. That's it. So main deity is Tara. Combining of Brahmanical plus Buddhist philosophy plus Tantricism. Tantra, mantra, yantra, superiority as faster vehicle for liberation and for salvation. According to this school, the mantra is an easy path to achieving Buddhahood without the difficulties of going through the six perfections, the Ashtanga Marga and all. 5.7% of all different Buddhists across India, across the world are Vajrayanic, and ironically, all Buddhist monasteries in India are Vajrayanic in that sense. All in Arunachal, all in Himachal Pradesh, and even in Ladakh, all are Vajrayanic in that regard. So very simply, Vajrayanic Buddhism in this whole concept is a school which says Tara is important and Tantra mantra for salvation over the concept of meditation. See, when you don't prepare for UPSC the whole year and sit in the end to study for 3 months, then you become a Vajrayanic Buddhist. When you will do Tantra mantra, look for shortcuts, this video, that video, try to find ways in which you can somehow learn something quickly. So you will say, what's the point of studying for 1 year? I will clear it in 3 months. Then you will find people who say that it is possible in 3 months. They will do this tantra, which is leave ancient and medieval. Then do that mantra, which is that don't do dams and don't do geography. Then you do this, that, and then all of this together will make you get to salvation. Hinayanic Buddhism is more slow process. Mahayanic Buddhism even more slow process. And Theravada the slowest process. So multi-year preparation, Theravada. Hinayana, Mahayana. Some people who prepare themselves, Hinayanic Buddhism. That we will prepare ourselves. We are good teachers ourselves. Mahayanic Buddhism, and the getting guidance and very quickly clearing examination. If you want this type of example, I'm giving you that also. So very simply, Theravada oldest, strict, the most strict. Mahayana, Buddha is God, Bodhisattvas. As soon as you see the word Bodhisattva, close your eyes and put it in Mahayanic Buddhism. Nobody is asking you to explain it. There's no subjective question which is coming. So nobody will ask you to what is Buddha. No, nothing like that. Just know that Mahayanic Buddhism is Buddha is God, Bodhisattvas. Hinayanic Buddhism, Buddha is teacher. Vajrayanic Buddhism, who wants to give more time to meditation, let's do Tantra mantra and get salvation. Are we clear with regards to this part? Because with this, we basically finish Buddhism. I would give you a break here. Yes, actually, thank God it doesn't come in means examination because then it would become extremely difficult. For a optional candidate, it is the same. That is okay. You don't have to take a screenshot, you will get this people teacher. Did Siddhartha before becoming Buddha belong to Hinduism? Sure, why not? You want to undercut Buddhism by saying that? Sure, why not? As it is, I will tell you later, Hinduism is going to usurp Buddhism itself. We'll talk about that. Everybody, please tell me that can I take a break? You want to call and ask something? Are you sitting there awestruck? Have to say something to me. Can I take a break? And when we come back, we talk about Jainism. Yes, sir? Okay, sir. You can use it in the essays. No, PPT is enough, Neil. Don't worry about that. Okay, perfect. So it is what, 5:07. We come back at 5:17. And then after as it is, we take a break at 5:40. So see you in the next 10 minutes. I can't do Jainism with you right now. You will more or less faint. So I give you time to process all this information. See you at 5:17 or at 5:18. Come back. Okay. Can we start again? Can we start again? Yes, sir. Very good. Anybody wants to call, ask a question, something you want to ask me generally, anything? Because that way everybody saying yes. I hope you're not sitting there thinking that I'll not repeat or something like that. Anything you want to ask? There's a calling feature which has been enabled, but you haven't pushed that till now. But if you want, you can call. Okay. No issues. Very good. Right. Now, we have discussed till this point Buddhism, context, life history, plus we've also discussed the concept of core philosophy, then councils and schools. Now, the next issue is subsects. Now, the problem with Buddhism is that there are multiple subsects and too many names. If you have the time, you waste it here. Rather learn Jain subsects, and that should be able to help you in elimination. So my basic advice to you would be the subsects are here, but basically there are 5 subsects in Jainism. So rather than learning 18 to 20, it's better to learn 5. So in the examination, generally you will be able to come to the conclusion through just solving the question that by learning Jainism, because they will mix up Jain and Buddhist subsects only, which is the sub schools within schools itself, and we will not waste our time here. Agreed? Can I refresh? Agreed? Okay. Now, Let's talk about Jainism. Let's talk about Jainism. See, Jainism, there are two very important concepts you need to understand because there's a lot of confusion with students with regards to that also. There's a difference between who started or formulated Jain philosophy and who started or institutionalized Jain religion. The answer to these questions are different. Unlike Buddhism, which originates with Buddha, who is also the originator and the institutor of that religion, Jainism, the person who formulated Jain philosophy, is Rishabhanatha, who is the first Jina or Tirthankara. And on the other hand, you have the Rishabh written like this also, Rishabhanatha. And the starter of the religion is Mahavira, who is the 24th Tirthankara. Now comes the concept of what is Tirthankara and what is Jina. Understand this point. Somebody starts a philosophy and somebody starts the religion. Now see, the word Jina means the one with infinite knowledge. And the people who follow the Jina is a Jain. And second, a word which is alternatively used for Jina is called Tirthankar. Tirthankar, very simply, have the meaning is the one who takes you across the world of sorrow. The one who takes you across the ocean of sorrow. Basically, the exact English word for it is ford builder. And the word ford comes from, ford basically is a geological or landscape which links two water bodies or sides of the water body. You would have seen, for example, if there is a river, there would be a certain place where silt starts to build up and it becomes like a bridge. Becomes a bridge. This is called a ford. So the Tirthankar is basically the bridge which takes you across the world, the ocean of sorrow. So very simply, a geological formation or landscape which links two water bodies or the two sides of a water body. So the word Tirthankar and Jain are used interchangeably. Are we clear with regards to this word, Tirthankar and Jaina? Yes, we are. Okay, very good. Now, the story of Jainism is much more complicated in the sense that whilst the last Tirthankar is Vardhaman Mahavira, he is the one who started the religion. However, not the originator of the philosophy. The philosophy, rather, is based on Rishabhanath, who was the first Tirthankar. Throughout generations, there have been 24 Tirthankars, and the 24th was Vardhaman Mahavir. When the 25th Tirthankar did not come through, so he and his followers instituted and what we call as institutionalized the religion into what we call as Jainism. So this is a very important point you need to understand, that the formulator of Jain philosophy is Rishabhanath. On the other hand, the institutionalized, who made the religion what it is today, is Vardhaman Mahavir. And the problem with the Jain story is only one thing. The historicity, the stories of, or who are these other 23? We have no idea. The other 23 we have no idea about. We may know that maybe Neminath, who's the 22nd one, belonged to Saurashtra region. 23rd, which is Parsavnath, may have belonged to the Banaras region. But we have no real details about them. We just know one thing, that the word Jaina comes out of the follower of Jina, who is the knower of infinite knowledge and teaches how to get moksha. Tirthankara is what we call an alternative word used for a fort builder, who basically helps you cross the ocean of sorrow. There have been 24 Tirthankaras. First was Rishabdeva or Rishabhnatha. We do not know the historicity of the other 23. 24th, we have a lot of information about. Because Vardhaman Mahavira's what we call as life history was very well documented. They have different symbols for them. I have given you the list of Tirthankaras also. Do not learn all. Just learn first, and thereafter Nami, Nemi, Parsavnath, Vardhaman Mahavir. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Just have to learn these 5 names. Nami, Nemi, Parsavnath developers, and Vardhaman Mahavir. In between, we have symbols, we have different concepts, but no life history. This is the problem with Jainism, or that makes our life easier for basically a UPSC aspirant. If all were known, we would have to learn each one of them, but we only know the most about, or whatever we know about, is basically Vardhaman Mahavir. That he was born in 540 BCE in a village called Kundagrama near Vaishali. His father was Siddhartha and mother was Trishala. Please, for God's sakes, Siddharth, not Buddha, different Siddharth. There can be 2 people with the same name. So Siddharth, mother Trishala, had a married life, again abandons at age of 30, wanders around for 12 years. 13th year he gets enlightenment near Muzaffarpur. Next 30 years he institutionalizes his followers, which were called the Nirgrantha followers or the followers of Mahavira. Kosala, Magad, Champa, Mithila, all areas he was traveling, and he will die of what is called selective or what we call as euthanasia, which is fasting based euthanasia, Salikhana, at Pavan near Rajgir in 468 BC. Basically Mahavira and what we call as Buddha were contemporaries to each other. They were contemporaries to each other. Now, before I go into doctrine, this is the last thing I do with you. When I come back from the break, I discuss Digambar, Shwetambar and subsects, and then we talk about Alexander, we go back to political history and Mauryas. I want you to very simply tell me if all of this is making sense to you. First is Buddhism. Anybody has any issue in Buddhism? Any issue in Buddhism? No? anybody has any issue with Buddhism? No. You know what to learn, what not to learn? No issues. Right. Now, in Jainism, what I've discussed with you is who is the philosophy, who started the philosophy? Rishabhnath. Who started the religion? We also understand. I give you the life history of Mahavir, basic things which you need to know out for a PCS level examination. And we also understand the terms Jina and Tirthankara. And we also know that 23 of them we have no historical what we call as details. If this is clear, then we talk about the philosophy. That is the last thing which we do. Okay. Difference between Buddhism and Jainism. Anu question is like difference between orange and apple. Buddhism and Jainism are different religions. This is one religion, this is second religion. Philosophies are different, concepts are different, founders are different, everything is different. So it's like the difference between US and India, two different entities altogether. Okay, now let's talk about the doctrine. Now in Jainism, there's again the concept of three ratnas. Right? There are three gems of Jainism, or basically the pillars of Jainism. Right faith, have faith in the Jina. Right knowledge, which is that the knowledge which is given to you by the Jina, and conduct yourself according to that knowledge. These are the three pillars. You need to have faith, you need to have knowledge, you need to have conduct. Rishabhnath is the first Tirthankara or preacher after preachers after him were called also. They were all also called Tirthankara. What is the difference between Jina and Tirthankara? Same thing, same different names. That's it. So Jina, first Jina or Tirthankara is Rishabhnath. Everybody else after him, very simply Tirthankaras only. So the three pillars is have faith in the Jina, have faith in the knowledge of the Jina, and conduct yourself according to it. You want to make it KFC, you make it KFC. Okay. Thereafter, the problem with Jainism and why a lot of people did not prescribe to it, or very simply was not very popular with the rulers, is that Jainism is very hard to follow. Jainism is extremely uncompromising about ahimsa, which is non-violence. The monks of Jainism have to follow very strict rules. It is uncompromising about all of its aspects, and it shuns violence like anything. So now tell me, as a Kshatriya, would it be easy for you to follow Jainism from the beginning itself? No, because some form of violence is necessary. So therefore, Jainism is either adopted by people in the end, for example, Chandragupta Maurya, or Buddhism is the one they go with because Buddhism is flexible. It's not uncompromising, or rather it compromises more on other things. Here, if you have to become a monk, you have to take what are called the Panch Mahavrat. There's 5 vows which you have to take. You have to agree to all of them. Not to injure any living being, ahimsa. Not to utter falsehood. You cannot be a Kshatriya, you cannot be a ruler without talking about different things, either falsehood or truth. Then, not to take what is not given. Do not steal. To lead a celibate life, which is never marry. Non-possession, never to call anything your own. So, the aim is for inner purification. See, the problem with Jainism is that Jainism thinks that karma, which is the karma you do, actions, before becoming a monk, are all sin. And therefore, you have to purify yourself through penance and punishment. So very simply, there's a concept of self-penance or punishment. The more you suffer, self-suffering, the more you are cleansed of this sin. Or next level austerity, next level giving up everything. This is the first philosophy which is inbuilt into the Mahabharatas. Firstly, do not steal, don't lie, do not basically call anything your own, do not marry, and further, last but not the least, you have to make sure that you don't do violence to anything. So therefore, for them, karma is the bane of existence. The more karma you do before becoming a monk, the more sins you have, therefore the more inner purification. But the second most important philosophy, which is inbuilt into Jainism, is everything has a soul, and a being with soul cannot be harmed. See, for monks, they they don't wear anything, but they only wear a mupatti, which is masks, before COVID-19 came through, because they believe that microscopic organisms can also be inhaled by them and in a way eaten. So it is a violence on them. Monks have to follow very strict laws that any being which has more than one sense, they cannot harm. On the other hand, for a follower, that is why Jains are extremely what we call as extreme form of vegetarianism, because for them, anything which has more than 2 senses cannot be actually eaten. So no animal, non-vegetarianism is not followed totally. But for them, for Jains, every particle in this universe has a soul from everything what you see, and therefore a monk, before he sits, he will sweep everything so that he does not sit on any being. And this is the level of ahimsa which they actually follow. So very simply, ahimsa is central to Jainism. Renunciation for laity and for the monk is equally hard. Jain recognizes 4 types of existence in the universe: God, Deva, Manushya, human; Narki, which is hell beings, which are smaller microorganisms; animal and plants. Animal and plants are further subdivided into subcategories based on their sense faculty. Your 5 senses based on sense faculty. The renunciant needs to observe highest level of renunciation and ahimsa towards these different organisms. Lay persons can avoid harming human beings or other beings, but renunciant should refrain from even harming single sense being. Very simply, they are very strict about how they interact with the world, and that is why Jainism is very difficult to follow generally, and that is why it was not very popular with the rulers and even with people. Because see, for traders, it was very good, because they just have to trade. They don't have to do violence. They believe in non-violence. They just do trade and gather prosperity. For Jains, it was very good. But for Kshatriyas, it is not a good philosophy. That is why it is quite common that Vaishya communities will find Jains, but not in the Kshatriya community. On the other hand, as I said, Buddhism is much more simpler than Jainism. For Jainism, remember, karma is your bane of existence. Whatever you've done as karma is sin. Self-purification, self-penance is very important. Over and above that, everything has a soul, and therefore, for a monk, he has to make sure that it does not harm anything which has a soul. Clear, everyone? Come on. Single sense organism would be, for example, a bacterium. Anything. Process of self-purification: fasting, meditation, not calling anything your own, celibacy, everything. Yes? If this is clear, I come back and talk about Digambar. Can we take a break now? Mopati means mask. Can we take a break? No Kunal, no faction speech martial arts in Buddhism. Yes? 4 types of existence. I mean, in what context are you saying? Very strict they are, yes, very, very strict. How they maintain? They have to maintain. The monks, I'll tell you, Digambas, Shvetambas, very, very hard to follow. Digambas extremely hard to follow. Okay. So let's take a break here. When I come back, we talk about Digambas, Shvetambas subsects, and then we go back to political history. This was the most technical in that sense. God, humans, heal. Classification of, we don't have to learn the classification of animals. They divide according to senses. 1 sense, 2 sense, 3 sense. We have 5 senses. So they accordingly divide each and every animal in that sense. Kshatriyas would rather follow Buddhism, yes, and Vaishyas would rather follow Jainism because that suits their understanding. Not calling your own restriction, but it does not mean that it's about fully giving up everything. For a monk, it is like that, not for a follower generally. By this strictness, because that is the way Jainism works. That is something specific to the religion itself. Okay, so let's take a break. We'll come back at 6:05 and take our story forward, part C. See you. Take care. I'll see you in the next 20 minutes. Have some tea or coffee.